All right, everyone, welcome to this lesson, which is change your state, change your life. I know it sounds a little bit dramatic, but I promise you this is absolutely life-changing stuff. I'm going to be very honest as well. Another way, most people who go through this will not buy it, will not take it seriously, and that's okay. I promise you, eventually you will understand how important this is, changing your life, for regulating yourself and actually creating the kind of results that you want in dating, especially. So I'm very keen on this. I appreciate it might not land the first time, but trust me, this is essential stuff that you need to know. I wouldn't have put it in otherwise. So we know from the beginning as well, dating will trigger you. You're going to have these moments where someone doesn't text back, someone ghosts you, someone perhaps shows a bit of behavior that maybe makes you think, is that a red flag? You're going to have moments of overthinking, indecisions, self-doubt, those stories you have about yourself. There's so many different things that can happen at any one time that set you off, essentially, that make you feel vulnerable, that make you feel scared, or make you even want to distance yourself. And so we know when that happens, our stories and our survival responses kick in. Okay, those three stories we talked about earlier: yourself, men, dating, and those four F's: the fight, the flight, fawn, and freezing. Okay, we mapped all of that out in week 1. So we know how you respond, what your stories are. The key is, how do you respond differently, right? What's the replacement response? That's what we're looking for here. We need that, because if you don't have it, if you don't have something to do instead, you're going to go to what you know and you're going to keep experiencing the same results. Now, in some cases, that's fine. But in many cases, especially if you've had a repeating pattern or you particularly struggle with one thing, that's just going to keep you in the same cycles. And we don't want that, right? So the key here is that you cannot logic your way out of any kind of trigger. Anytime you're feeling emotionally on edge, whether it's one of those responses or just only heightened emotion, there's no way for you to think your way out of it. You can't outthink anxiety, and you can't defeat your survival brain on its home turf. And trust me, when you're triggered, that is home turf for the survival brain. There's nothing you can say to yourself that makes a difference. Now, in CBT, which is one of the most popular forms of therapy, it's a very cognitive-based therapy. Well, that's why it's called that. There's a model which you see on your screen now, and that says your thoughts lead to your feelings, lead to your actions, lead to your outcomes. And that's true. The weakness of this model, though, is if you were looking to change your outcomes, it would say, well, change your actions, change your feelings, and then start by changing your thoughts. Just change your thoughts. Think more positively. Just think differently. And that does not work if your state isn't balanced. Okay, if you don't have nervous system regulation, if you're not physiologically calm and safe. And that's why the real model that I believe in is this: your state dictates how you're feeling. What you're thinking, which dictates how you're feeling, the actions that you take, and then the outcomes you experience. And that then becomes its own little cycle. So I'm a huge proponent of this because I've lived it myself, in my own life, and I've seen it with hundreds of clients. If you nail your state, and state being how you're physically feeling, whether you're regulated in your nervous system, whether you're calm, balanced, coherent, whatever words you want to use. When you have that, everything else follows. It does not matter about using all those cognitive techniques until this is there for you, right? Your brain just does not care what you have to say unless it feels safe in the first place. Great analogy that I came up with here. A great analogy, at least I think. When your computer's frozen, as prior to getting a Mac, it used to be frozen very often with this blue screen of death. You can do all the typing you want. You can click around. It does not matter. What your computer needs is a total reboot. And this is exactly what we're talking about here by changing your state. It is rebooting your system. So whatever you want to do, clicking, typing, whatever, actually will work later. So we need to create physiological safety. That's the reboot. And here's a little bit more about why. It's a great quote from John Grinder, who was the founder of NLP, probably the largest personal development science in the world. If you call it science, it's more of a methodology. And he said the problem isn't the problem, it's the state that you enter the problem in. So if you just let that sit, really understand what that means. Problem's never the problem. It's how you enter the problem, what your physiology is like, how you are feeling. Is your heart racing? Are you calm? Are you in anxiety, feeling anxious? Are you overthinking and racing? If you change that piece, how your body is, everything else will follow and you'll get a new outcome because you'll behave differently. You'll feel differently. You'll think differently. You'll behave differently. This is where state changes come in. Okay, this is the whole point of this lesson, is to understand that when you are feeling triggered in dating, or even insecure, vulnerable, fearful, whatever it is, and this is true for any area of your life, right? You need to change your state, and you need these types of methods or go-to techniques that help you do it. And it's nothing to do with talking, it's nothing to do with thinking or reframing. It's purely about changing how your body is in the moment first. Some would call this somatic training, or somatic frameworks, whatever you might say. So I'm going to go through a few examples that have worked really well for me and clients. They're not exhaustive. I'll put another list up in the downloads, but these are some of the things that really help. Now, box breathing is an absolute go-to. It is one of the most studied types of breath work by an institute called HeartMath. Very simple. You do 5 seconds inhale into your belly, you hold for 5 seconds, you breathe out for 5 seconds, and then you hold for another 5 seconds. And you do that at least 5 times, be as long as comfortable. What that does is it regulates your nervous system by upregulating your heart rate variability. Okay, so it actually gets you into what we call a state of coherence, where your nervous system is balanced, right? You're not stressed, but you're not totally at rest either. You're in calmness. And that's a very powerful technique, always delivers for me. And I have very good data on that. Next one that I really enjoy is movement. Just move your body. Now, this is really hard when you're in one of these states, but it is such a rapid way of getting out of one of those frantic overthinking states or feeling anxiety. Just move your body, whether it's going for a walk, jumping is an excellent one, doing some squats, and even dancing is one of my favorite ones. Moving your body is an excellent way to just snap out of whatever's happening, get the blood flowing, and change the thoughts that you're having without consciously needing to do it. Sensation snap, another great one, is just, holding an ice cube. I've said 10 jumping jacks, that's kind of movement, but even just changing where you are, so location, getting fresh air in terms of stepping outside, changing where you're sat, or if let's say I'm in this office, I can just go outside for a moment or go to the living room. That helps in many ways, just get a reset for the brain. Cold water. This is an unpopular one, I'll be honest, but this is the most life-changing thing I've ever done. If you can have really ice cold water splashed on your face, or a contrast shower, even better. Again, hugely well studied. It spikes your dopamine up to 250% for hours. It completely resets how you feel. It downregulates cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It makes you feel amazing. You feel proud for doing it. You want more of it. And also it activates the vagus nerve, which is one of the most central parts of balancing how you feel in any one moment. I can't say enough about this. I always mention it. People always say no. I guarantee you, if you try this, it is absolutely life-changing. And the last one I'll mention here is singing and humming. Again, this is to do with activation of the vagus nerve, which goes from kind of your gut through to the brain. Singing, humming, you may have heard people use the chant of Om. All of that activates through vibration, makes you feel amazing, makes you feel better, completely changes the level of thoughts that you have in one moment. An underrated hack here as well that I started using, just do accents, funny accents. You try different styles. In the UK, for example, I go between trying a Liverpudlian or Manchurian accent versus Southeast London or Cockney London. There's something about it that makes you feel different. I'm not sure why. But again, one of my favorite state challenges because it actually involves a bit of humor as well. You could even just look at funny videos online. Point is, what we want here is for you to know how you can change your physiological state, how you're feeling, your nervous system is, have a reliable method of doing that. That's not based on other people. That's not based on, say, doing yoga or going to the gym, but actually something that's within your control that you can just go to at any moment. So, just a few quick examples of how this works. Let's say someone hasn't texted you back in hours. By default, what that can lead to is a lot of spiraling, a lot of overthinking, stories going in your head. This person doesn't like me, whatever it is. Simple thing you can do, put your phone in the other room, move your body for 5 minutes. Walk, stretch, shake, dance, whatever it is. When you come back to it, having changed your state, you will feel differently. Okay, and it may not be perfect to start, but what we're training here is a replacement response. So instead of you going to the default of panic and spiral, you learn when this happens, I'm going to take control. When I have autonomy over my state, I'm going to do this instead. And the more you do that, the more successful you become, the more regulated you become, the more secure you become. Okay, same, you feel rejected mid-date or perhaps after a message. If you're on a date, you can excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, splash cold water on your face. You can do some box breathing. Might sound ridiculous. It's not, because you need to control how you are feeling in the moment to avoid sabotaging something or getting yourself into a situation you don't want to be in. Same for this last one. You find yourself generally spiraling about your life, your dating. This happened to me recently. I was feeling very sorry for myself about, what was it? About how much weight I put on post having a baby. And you can really get yourself into a vicious state, right? The more I just went for walks and got outside, the more I started singing and dancing, the better I felt immediately. And the more then later the act of reframing and challenging your stories cognitively, saying, well, actually, I can do it. That becomes effective at the point you've done this, right? So I'm not saying you never challenge your thoughts. What I'm saying here is when you're in a bit of a triggered state, emotionally vulnerable, fearful, feeling insecure, the first step always is get yourself regulated, right? Because if you don't do this, nothing you say makes a difference to your brain, right? It's just going to keep confirming the same stories. Now, as I said from the start, I know most people are going to ignore this. I know most people will roll their eyes and say, this is too much, it's OTT. I don't care, because I've validated this over 500 clients. I've spoken to thousands of people over the last 5 years. The science is clear, okay? Getting yourself regulated, your nervous system, is the key to creating change. If you do not know how to change your state, no state shift, there is no change in your life. You get more of the same because it's safe, it's certain, it's predictable. And that's what your brain loves. So mastering this is absolutely key for having better dating life, for feeling more emotionally secure, for being able to change anything in your world. Without it, it's like a band-aid, right? You put a band-aid on, there's a limit to how much it can do, right? You need to heal, essentially. In this case, it's completely allowing you to heal from the ground up and build on a very solid foundation. So we're going to talk about in the next lesson how we can change our stories after you've done this, those 3 beliefs we identified in the first module. But for now, really just encourage you to think about, what do you do to change your state? Do you have this? How do you know you're emotionally regulated? And what out of the list that I sent, or maybe of your own, would you like to explore? In the game this week, we're going to put the 2 things together, but just for now, have a consideration of that and let me know anything in the comments that comes up for you around how you feel about this, or anything that perhaps shocked you or maybe you found insightful. And I'll see you in the next lesson.